Every Sunday, at exactly 4:07 p.m., Sarah felt the same thing, a tightening in her chest, a restless urge to stay busy, and a quiet certainty that something bad was about to happen. She spent years trying to understand why. She learned breathing exercises. She filled journals. She sat across from people trained to help. And still, every Sunday at 4:07, it returned. But the answer came from a place she never expected. It started with something an 8-year-old boy noticed. The strange thing was that Sarah's life looked fine. A husband she loved, a son who still held her hand in parking lots, a house full of ordinary Sunday mornings. And for most of the weekend, she almost believed everything was fine too. Until the drive home. She couldn't tell you when it started. There was no moment she could point to, no event she could blame. Just the clock on the microwave reading 4:07, and something in her chest closing like a fist. Her son was upstairs. Her husband was reading. The house had gone quiet in the particular way houses do on Sunday afternoons, peaceful to anyone else, and to her, somehow, unbearable. She set down her tea. Later, she would realize she wasn't reacting to that Sunday. She was reacting to something much older, but she didn't know that yet. She went to the refrigerator. She started pulling out containers, leftover rice, half a block of tofu, vegetables she'd bought with intentions. She began to chop. She didn't need to meal prep. She had prepped the Sunday before that, and the one before that, but her hands needed somewhere to go, and the kitchen was the only place she knew to put them. She had been doing this for 3 years. She had never once asked why. The first thing Monday took from her was her attention. At some point in the evening, she opened her laptop. There was a new documentation system starting Monday. Every session note completed within 30 minutes, or it would flag for review. She read 3 lines of the policy. Her jaw tightened the way it did when she was with a difficult patient and trying not to show it. She closed the laptop. She told herself she'd deal with it Monday. She knew she was lying. Her phone lit up a few minutes later, a message from a colleague. Dreading tomorrow. This system is insane, Sarah typed back. We'll be fine. She stared at the smiley face for a moment before she sent it. She sent it anyway. Something about it, the small, cheerful punctuation, the performed certainty, made her feel more alone than she had before she picked up the phone. Dinner was quiet in the way that dinner is when everyone is present and no one is entirely there. Her husband talked about something that happened at work. Her son asked about a word he'd heard at school. She answered at the right moments. She nodded. Her plate was mostly full. Her husband glanced at it, then at her, then back at his own food. He didn't say anything. He almost never did. From the other room, the television played the opening theme of the Sunday night program. That particular sequence of notes that had played every week for as long as she could remember. Her shoulders moved before her mind registered the sound. A small tightening, breath going shallow. Some people know exactly what sound brings it on. Then something happened that years of therapy had never managed to do. Her son was sitting at the table doing homework when he looked up at her, and in 5 seconds, he noticed something she had completely missed. He looked at her the way children do when they haven't yet learned that certain observations are better left unsaid, with complete, uncomplicated attention. "Mom, why do you look like that on Sundays?" She asked him what he meant. "Like you're waiting for something bad." She laughed. She told him she was just tired. She ruffled his hair and took her plate to the sink and stood there with her back to the room, running water over dishes that were already clean. She could not stop hearing it, like you're waiting for something bad. Later, standing at the bathroom sink, she looked at her own face. She was good at this. Looking at faces. It was her job in a way. Reading what a person's expression was carrying underneath the one they'd chosen to show. She had explained to 43 patients what happens to the body when it perceives a threat that hasn't arrived yet. She described the tightening in the chest, the shallow breath, the way the stomach closes. She'd drawn diagrams. She'd used the word anticipatory. She'd been calm and clear and genuinely helpful. She had never once applied any of it to herself. Standing in front of the mirror, she realized something she had explained to dozens of patients, but never to herself. The body doesn't wait for a threat to arrive. If it expects pressure, it starts preparing for it. And every Sunday evening, her nervous system prepared for Monday, as though Monday had already happened. The strange part was that she'd felt versions of this anxiety long before this job existed, which meant the real cause wasn't sitting in her inbox. It was hiding somewhere much further back. She was at the back window when the memory arrived. It came the way old things do, not announced, just suddenly present. Her mother at the ironing board, a Sunday evening, pressing the collar of a work shirt with the particular focus of someone who has already, mentally, left the house. The television on low in the other room. The smell of starch. Sarah had been 8 or 9. She remembered the feeling of standing in the doorway, watching her mother's back, and understanding, without being told, that rest was over. That stillness was a luxury the weak didn't allow. That the right thing to do, the good thing, was to find something useful to do with yourself before you were asked. She had spent 30 years finding something useful to do with herself, and then she saw it. She had spent 3 years trying to fix Sundays, but Sundays were never the problem. The anxiety was never about Monday. The real problem had started nearly 30 years earlier, in a doorway, watching her mother iron a work shirt on a Sunday evening, learning a lesson nobody had spoken out loud. Rest is earned, and you have not earned it yet. It was about a question she had been carrying since she was a child in a doorway, watching a woman iron a collar on a Sunday night. Are you doing enough? And never, not once, not even now, having been allowed to answer, yes, enough. I am enough. She went outside. She sat on the back step without her phone, without a plan, without a container to fill or a document to review. The air had gone cool. Somewhere nearby, a neighbor's dog was moving through grass. The light was doing what light does at the end of a Sunday, going slowly, giving you time to notice it going. She let the feeling come. It came. The chest tightening, the familiar weight behind the sternum, the particular texture of dread she had been outrunning for 3 years in a kitchen with a knife and a cutting board. It arrived fully. It sat with her. It did not destroy her. It peaked. She could feel it peaking, the way you can feel a wave cresting. And then, without drama, without resolution, it began to ease. Not because anything had changed, not because the documentation system had been canceled or Monday had moved to Wednesday, just because she had stopped running and the thing she was running from had caught up and turned out to be smaller than the running. Inside, her son had finished his homework. Her husband was washing a pan, his back to the room, humming something she couldn't identify. She sat down at the table. She didn't perform calm. She didn't manage her expression or measure her words. She was just there, present in the particular ordinary way she rarely was on Sunday evenings. They ate again. She finished her plate. Her husband noticed. She could see it in the slight pause before he reached for his glass. He didn't say anything. And she didn't either. Some things don't need to be named to be understood. Later, after her son was asleep, she sat in the quiet of the house and thought about what he had seen that she hadn't. Like you're waiting for something bad. He wasn't wrong. She had been waiting. For 3 years, she had been waiting for Sunday evening to stop feeling like a threat, and the waiting had become its own kind of suffering, a second shift that began at 4 p.m. and ended, if she was lucky, sometime around Tuesday. She wasn't cured. She knew that. Next Sunday, the clock would read 4:07 again, and something in her chest would close, and the week would begin to press against the edges of the weekend, the way it always did. But she knew its name now, and she knew, for the first time, quietly, without drama, that it was not the future that frightened her. It was the past, still arriving, right on schedule. Maybe that's true for more of us than we'd like to admit. What feeling are you calling the future that actually belongs to the past?